Hello, everyone. My name is Kush, and welcome to my hobby blog. I'm very excited today because we are finally wrapping up the Wheel of Time series. I haven't actually talked about this book on the channel. I think I talked about it on my ranking, but we haven't really done a discussion on the channel yet. And I'm happy to have my good friend Alf to help me finally have a therapy session on this book because there are so many
Uh,
feelings that happen throughout. So
yes.
welcome back to the channel. I think the last time we talked was Dragon Reborn, so we have a lot to catch up on.
Mhm. Yes. So, hello, everyone out there. It's a pleasure to be here again and a pleasure to be talking about this book, this insane book, this insane saga. Oh, my. And the therapy session is for real. I mean, I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, no more Wheel of Time for me, I guess. I should reread. uh, but I'm keeping myself from starting again so that I can like refresh myself and get in contact with another author or some different people at least, because otherwise I feel like I'm going to enter this never-ending cycle of reading and reading and reading again the Wheel of Time and the Cosmere and the Wheel of Time and the Cosmere.
Yeah,
Ah,
I'm about 60% done with the Gathering Storm, and I'm already like thinking about book 1 and 2 and 3 and how that will
hmm,
change because I think my first read through I knew nothing really that was going on, and my reread
yeah.
has been so rewarding. But it's nice because I can kind of zone out during the chapters I don't care about, which is really
Mm-hmm.
nice. And
Yeah.
most of last year was rereading the Wheel of Time because I have the Audible 1 credit a month, and so
Mm-hmm.
I have all 14 books, and that's 14 months of Audible credits. So I'm excited to have those credits go towards something non Wheel of Time related. And
Mm-hmm.
first thing you do when you finish the Wheel of Time is to reread the Wheel of Time. That's kind of like a joke in the meme or a meme in the community. It's very
Oh,
much true. And you've said you haven't read New Spring yet, which I have right here. It's a
yes.
perfect book to kind of start a reread with, in
I
my opinion.
know. I know, but it's some serious business that we have in here because finishing the Wheel of Time once is 14 books, or 15 if you take into account New Spring, which is much shorter. So I'm hesitant to take it into account, but finishing the Wheel of Time for real, as every fan says, is finishing it for the second time. So that's 28 books, and that is crazy, you know. Oh, but so many people has told me, like, first of all, many people told me welcome to the Raffle Club, and lots of people told me welcome to the real Wheel of Time experience. Now that you can read it again, yeah, it's a to go thing. Fortunately, I enjoy rereading. I do that a lot with the things I like. Everything I like, I reread it or rewatch it at least once. And the things I love, I read them several times, like countless times through my life. And I think The Wheel of Time is entering that pile of saga series, TV shows that I just watch and watch over and over again through the years.
Oh, yeah. And especially the part about welcome to the real side of Wheel of Time or whatever after finishing your first read. That's very
Yes.
much true because now you can go and just look up anything that you want, which I think was the
Yeah.
biggest change for me after finishing for the first time. Because no
Mm-hmm.
longer did I have to kind of skirt around anything that had the words Wheel of Time on
Yes.
Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, everything. And you're kind of just
Mm-hmm.
free to now go down any rabbit hole that you want. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest kind of change from a first reader to a rereader is that.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to finally look things up. Who killed Asmodean? What's up with Taim? All those. So,
Yeah.
because I know that was one question I had for basically the entire saga was who killed Asmodean. I guess, do we want to go into loose ends or questions that you, well, I guess initial
Yeah.
reactions to Memory of
Sure.
Light. I guess
I
I should
mean,
show it off, but
my actual reaction to this book is that the phrase that there are neither beginnings nor endings to the spinning of the wheel of time, that's true as hell, because that enters into your life when you finish this saga, in a sense that, as the final word said, it was not the ending, it is just an ending, because you will go and start it again. It will be a cycle in your life after you finish it at least once. um Besides, like, the structure of the story is actually cyclic, but I love that the final book gave me that feeling that we got at the beginning of each of the other books.
Mm.
Of course, you can probably guess that I really like this book. I don't know if I can say I enjoy it, but I appreciate it with all my heart as a very well done book. I don't know if I enjoyed it because, as I was reading A Memory of Light, all the time I was talking to my friends and says, I am suffering. This is terrible. I am in pain, but this is not terrible in a sense of, ugh, I hate this. This sucks.
Hmm.
Like, it was, I was feeling the terrible dread and fear and anxiety of the characters, of the story, of the plot, of everything in that world. I was feeling it in my body, in my belly, in my chest. And that's that was such a tangible experience to have, that I was left, I don't know, made a mess emotionally, but in a good way, because it's the right way that I think the story was intended to make you feel, you know? Um when I think about the loose ends, or if everything clicked perfectly, I don't know if I can say that now. I think like I need to finish it for a second time to properly answer that, because the first time is most rushing through those crazy final chapters and just dealing with the emotions that makes you feel, and the emotion of closing the book for the first time and saying it's over, that was it, and processing, you know. um so I will be able to answer about the loose ends later. But I think that my my overall reaction is that A Memory of Light is the ending that the story deserved to have. So I think we are honored to live in an age in which this saga exists, is finished. I am honored to have been able to buy one book, read it, finish, and start the following one right after, without having to wait and having that anxiety of, hey, Robert Jordan died, what's going to happen. I didn't have to go through that. I just grabbed the books and read them and finished them, and it was amazing. And this probably sets a huge precedent in the story of literature. I think this is like a patrimony to what humankind was, is, and will be through history. Oh, and I really want to read the Wheel of Time Companion. I think that helps to click all those loose ends or whatever questions you had, click all that together. And right now I'm reading this new book called The Origins of the Wheel of Time, written by Michael Livingston. Do you have it? Do
Yep.
you have it?
It's
Yay!
right
Let me
here.
see how thick is
It
this
is
book.
not that
Oh,
thick,
he's
actually.
very small. Yeah, because I'm reading this guy in ebook, and I got the feeling from the percent of the book that I had read that I was moving really fast. So I was like, this is a very short book in comparison to what I'm used to. But oh, that book is great. It's so wonderful. It's amazing, and it's helping to transition from that void that we all get after finishing this. But I love the ending. What was your experience with the ending? I think you loved it too.
Oh yeah, I
I
really much,
remember.
yeah. Cause I finished it around September of 2021, so right before the show, I guess, came out in November. So I was able to finish the entire series like weeks before the TV show started
Hmm.
airing, and so I was very lucky in that regard. And I remember I was definitely left with a hole in my life, because because most of my reading was focused around the Wheel of Time, and now it is again as I just re-listened to it on
Hmm.
audiobooks. And and I think we are very much blessed that we got an ending to this, because right now in the fandom that I'm in for the A Song of Ice and Fire books, we are still wrestling with what's going to happen with the final books of that. And I'm very happy that I wasn't really around in the community when Robert Jordan died, because I would have been very confused, angry, sad, with all the possibilities of what would have happened. And I'm very happy that Robert Jordan changed his mind, because for years he said he didn't want anyone to write in his wish
Yeah.
list. And
Yes. Oh.
they explain it in the origin story, but basically it was within the last few months of his life that he started
Hmm.
doing all the detailing and outlining, and even wrote some of the scenes, such as the Tower of Genji saving Moraine,
Hmm.
the prologue with the big storm and the gathering storm coming into the farmers. He wrote that. He wrote the watchtowers in the borderlands slowly being overtaken. He wrote that in the prologue, and he wrote the epilogue of the entire series. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest gut punch to me when reading this book, at least the first time that I did, is that I finished it and then it just felt like Robert Jordan again in the final
Yeah.
epilogue. And I was like, oh, there he is. He's with us in the beginning and he's with us at the end. And
Yeah.
I remember I just sat there pretty much crying for a while. So I was like, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
so like great. It's a great weight off of my shoulders, no longer having to kind of tippy toe around everything. I can finally
Hmm.
look stuff up. I definitely wish we were in the age, or I wish there were portal stones around so we could go to a universe where we have Robert Jordan's A Memory of Light, his 3,000 page book that he was teasing about. I would
Yeah.
love to see how he would have done the last battle, because Brandon knocked it out of the park, but there's always that what if. How would Robert Jordan do the last battle?
Yeah.
And all the different questions, and especially the sequel books that he was planning. So
Hmm.
there's so many what ifs that I wish I could get answers for. But I think that's why I am still reading The Wheel of Time and why it's still going strong. Exactly 10 years later, 10 years
Yeah.
in a week. Last Sunday was the 10th anniversary. And all these characters in this story are now real people to me. When I'm reading the
Yeah.
books, it feels like I know all of these characters so well, especially
Hmm.
Rand, Perrin, Mat, Egwene, Nynaeve, Lan, Moraine, uh, everybody. And
Hmm.
even thinking back to the early books, I could see all the little seeds that Robert Jordan had planted. And I remember, I think we talked about this, but there were things in the prologue of Eye of the World that don't pay off until A Memory of Light. And a lot of that
Yeah.
has to do with the, I guess, with the Luz Theron prologue with Ishamael. Everything
Yeah.
with that. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do you remember when I said that there was something in the final episode of season one that was Memory of Light, and I couldn't explain it? Do you have
Yeah.
any
What was
theories?
it? No, because I don't remember much of the last episode of the TV show because I felt like I didn't understand quite well what happened. I understood the end of the book after several rereads of the last three chapters, but the TV show I was like confused about what they were trying to portray. So what was it? I want
So,
to know.
yeah, the part that reminded me of A Memory of Light was where, uh, I guess, Beelzemon, at this point, he is with Rand in the kind of weird Tel'aran'rhiod world dream where
Hmm.
everything keeps repeating, and he's like, you gotta do this, you gotta
Oh,
do this, and he repeats, and then another thing happens. That was reminding me of Rand versus the Dark One at the end of A Memory of Light, where they are doing
oh,
their
that's
own
a very
realities.
yeah, that's a very clear reference and wink to that.
Yeah, because I was kind of surprised that there weren't many people who liked the show, but at the same time, there was so many setups they have to do in the season, and season two's taken 2 years now to get it ready since the last season. And I remember when that happened, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like they obviously have the end in mind. Like unless this is such a coincidence, but I don't believe that.
No, it's not a coincidence.
And
It's
even
not.
since finishing A Memory of Light and rereading these books, I find myself sort of believing in the pattern in real life. Something weird will
Mm,
happen, or there'll be a coincidence where I'm like, oh, all these things have happened in our own lives that have met for this one moment at work or when I'm driving or anything. That I'm like, wow, the pattern is pushing me to go this way or anything like that. And
mm.
it always makes me laugh when I'm, without thinking, referencing the pattern in my day to day life.
Yeah, because we get that so internalized after reading the heads and the minds and the feelings of so many characters that have that extremely incorporated to the way they think, that it's impossible not to think of our own life like that. And I actually think it's a very wholesome and nice way to see things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I. Sorry, there's a noise. So I agree. I mean, I think about that too, and I wish that the reincarnation thing was right and true in real life as well. That would be amazing.
Spinning our souls in and out of the pattern when we're needed.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that there are some metaphysical details around this magic system and this cosmology system that are worthy of a nice, interesting debate. But still, it was a great thing. It was a huge idea, and it was greatly made. Oh, and the thing when you mentioned that detail about Robert Jordan not wanting anyone to finish the saga if it was not himself, I have read that part of the origins of the Wheel of Time, the part in which they mentioned that. I read it this morning, and I was like, oh, jeez, this that would have been so terrible. Imagine being left with nice knives of dreams and then nothing, but at the same time, I don't know, it was so heartbreaking, everything that he was so willing to fight, as the book mentions, to fight his illness, the thing that was affecting him, his affliction. He was so willing to finish it himself, he was so willing to, you know to live. It's terrible, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, I am so grateful that Branderson did such a good job with this. I'm so grateful that Branderson did this, and I think that he was able to honor the legacy, which is, I mean, whenever I feel like scared or insecure about anything I have to do in my life, I will just think Brandon Sanderson was a fan of the Wheel of Time, and he got a phone call saying, "Hey, maybe would you like to, kind of pretty please try to finish this for us, for the people, for humankind, for the universe?" And he said yes, and he did it. So that's gotta put some courage into the heart, because it was a gigantic task. I can even imagine the magnitude of the work.
Yeah, because he's
But
mentioned that Robert Jordan had like 1 million words worth of notes. It was like
yeah.
triple the size of what the series was, amount of words and notes that Robert Jordan left.
Yeah, besides the end of the plot lines or the character arcs were not like this and that. There were possibilities, which is kind of accurate to the concept of the saga, that there were so many different, let's say, turnings of the wheel for each character, and they had to choose one and give it form. So I don't know. Robert Jordan was truly like the creator, like what the creator is to the Wheel of Time. He was, but from outside, and Brandon Sanderson had to take up that place after the worst happened. So I think this, knowing all this, because it's impossible to reach a memory of light without knowing at least a little bit of this, and this is also something that makes the story and the book much more heartfelt for the reader and much more emotional. Because for real, like knowing all of these details, or just knowing that Robert passed away and then Brandon finished, and reading A Memory of Light and reaching the epilogue and feeling that embrace, that warm hug from Robert Jordan again, is it's an insane surreal experience, and it makes everything much more tearful, and it's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing to experience.
Yeah, I remember when I'd finished the epilogue and I found a fan art of, I think it was like a Cosmere Wheel of Time crossover fan art where Brandon was standing there writing at like a typewriter. And it looked like he was
Mhm.
in like the Beyond, where Robert Jordan's ghost was like having his hand on his shoulder,
Oh,
and Harriet McDougal was on the other side, like guiding him on because she's an
oh
editor.
my.
And I remember seeing that, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this little fan art thing means so much more now that I finished." Because I saw that even before starting the Wheel of Time. Because I,
Hmm.
of course, read Brandon Sanderson stuff before discovering the Wheel of Time. Although I had
Yeah, me
attempted
too.
to read it back in 2013 when Memory of Light came out, but I wasn't
Yeah, but
ready. So,
we were much younger in 2013, and yeah, we both had the weird experience of first reading the Cosmere and after that finishing Wheel of Time. That's also kind of crazy. We're like the second Wheel of Time generation, I think.
mm-hmm,
Um, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I feel a little bit like I am dishonoring Robert Jordan's memory and legacy by not having heard about him before. But what can I do? I mean, I just didn't see the books in any bookstore here in Argentina, so I didn't get to know they existed before reading the Brandon Sanderson things. But it's like it's so weird to have done the to have walked the journey like the other way around, right? First Branderson and then Robert Jordan. I don't know. It's crazy, but I think it makes the community a better place because it makes it more diverse, more I don't know, more full of different experience, more colorful, a better palette.
mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stuff in the later Wheel of Time books that Brandon did that you can see
Mhm.
were sort of seeds for the Cosmere.
Yeah, definitely.
And
And
the big one
as
for me, just so you kind of
Mhm.
throw this out real quick, is the Matt, Brandon's Matt, because
Yeah,
a lot of people say that his Matt is totally different, and Brandon has said he had a ton of issues. And for me, Matt is just a precursor to Wayne uh, from Era 2 because they act almost exactly
yeah,
the same, have the same humor.
definitely.
Matt
I
even
think that
has a thing about shoes, and Matt has, and Wayne has something about hats. So I had a lot of fun reading that for the first time, especially with Towers of Midnight, I believe, where all of that comes out.
Mhm.
Brendan's silly Matt.
Yeah. Is Wayne is sorry. Branderson's Matt is proto Wayne, but I think that Wayne is not a copy; it's a tribute.
Mm-hmm.
No? And yeah, I did notice since Matt is my favorite character in the Wheel of Time, I did notice the difference, and I still prefer Robert Jordan's Matt to Branderson's Matt. But I'm not as hard on him as
Mm-hmm.
some people are. I understand it was hard for him. He did his best, and I still enjoy the character, even though there are details that I'm like, okay. But Wayne was also one of my favorite characters of the Cosmere. I mean, I had like a top three, and Wayne was among those three top characters. Was okay, is he
Oh,
still is.
yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, Brandon did great with Matt Steele, and I think that in the same sense that when you read The Eye of the World, you can see a tribute to Tolkien's um, La La Comunidad del Anillo, the Fellowship of the Ring. As you can see the tribute to that book in The Eye of the World, I think that you can see the tribute to The Wheel of Time with The Way of Kings, and I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that because it's a legacy that it's being passed down through different authors and different generations, but without like perpetuating a copy or a structure, but perpetuating an artistic ideal of doing something beautiful and building something huge and wonderful for people to enjoy. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do a video outlining all the different similarities between the Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings. I think the my favorite one is how Lord of the Rings has the Nazgul, and then
Hmm.
the Wheel of Time has the Forsaken. I mean, they're
Hmm.
basically exactly the same type of group. There are nine Nazgul though, and 13 Forsaken, but they
Yeah.
all have their own sort of goals. The Nazgul, they're a little more unified than the
Yeah.
Forsaken. The Forsaken are just a whole lot of mess. Um,
Hmm.
but also with how it's connected to the Stormlight Archive, the Unmade are basically the Forsaken in my eyes, because each of
Yeah.
them are an entity of powerful investiture and magic, and each have a I guess are aligned with the big Dark One, the big Dark Lord, Odium. Not to go
Hmm.
too deep into that, but I've always enjoyed looking at all the different similarities between Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time.
Hmm.
So, um, is there any kind of specific things about Memory of Light that you especially loved? Any plot lines or
Yes.
character lines?
There's there's one, and it was an unexpected thing, and it was a pure Branderson thing, as our friend Cheyenne told me. This character arc between Androl
Mm-hmm.
and Pevara, Fivara, I don't know how you say that. I just call her Pevara. Um, those two characters arc, that was insane. I mean, Androl is among my favorite characters in the Wheel of Time
Hmm.
after what we saw. Um, I love that, but that's as I figured. Yeah, I fucking love this. I was like, this is a a very Branderson character. You know, it's screaming Branderson's pen. His The way that character works, being bled into life in the story, everything. Um, I just really like that. I also was extremely touched and sad and happy. I don't know if happy, but sad, not happy, satisfied. Sad, but satisfied and accepting of the character arc that we see for Egwene. Because I had issues with her at the beginning of the story, you know? I didn't like her that much. And by book six, she started to grow more interesting to me and become a more appealing character. And by the end, I just have to say I love her. I love her, and it was insane. And the ending, I really appreciate those sad endings that leave you with this satisfaction that yeah, it was what had to happen. The same, it's just a similar feeling to what I got when I finished The Hero of Ages for the first time. Like, this is extremely sad, but it is what it had to be. and it's an honorable ending for everything and everyone. So yeah, those two things were my absolute favorite.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Androl stuff, and I remember his very first chapter. I want to say in Towers of Midnight, maybe, or
Yeah, I think so.
Memory of Light is one of those. It's not in Gathering Storm because I haven't read any chapters with him yet. But I remember reading that first introduction of him with him and the saddle straps and figuring
Yeah.
out how to work leather very well.
Mm.
I was like, this is such a Brandon introduction. I feel as if I'm in Mistborn getting the first introduction of Kelsier in the beginning of Final Empire. I feel like, I mean, he has said this. This was his way to really play with the ideas he's had for a decade or two of gateways and what he could do with them. And I love how Androl opens the gateway into Dragonmount and just
That's
roasts alive like thousands of Trollocs and Myrddraal and all of that.
that was wonderful. That was wonderful
That's
because
one thing I
that
want in the
fight,
show.
that definitely has to be in the show. That's a must scene that we deserve as a fandom. But that was brilliant actually, because it turned the battle completely upside down. It turned the table all the way 180 degrees. What was a definite defeat, turned into a success. Barely, but a success at the end.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
one thing I'm happy for is that Rafe recently did a Q&A with Dragonmount, the
Hmm.
um, and he was saying one of the questions he was asked was who's your favorite side character and the writing team's favorite side character, and he said Pivara without even a
Oh
moment's
yeah.
hesitation. And I was like, please have later Pivara and Androl shenanigans because I love it all. I love
Hmm.
how they're talking to each other through the bond. And we
Yeah.
originally I didn't really like how they were able to do that, but on my reread there are a lot of hints of the Water Aes Sedai being able to communicate over the bond. And with
Hmm.
them, because they're so powerful and I guess just having the ability, because we've seen the water bond change throughout the series. First with
Yeah.
Elaine and Bagheera, and then we get Lan's bond being passed around and finally given to Nynaeve.
Yeah.
And by the time we get Androl and Pivara, the whole concept of bonding has completely changed. And so they're
Hmm.
now doing it totally different. And the fact that they were able to speak through it now makes sense to me because there are a lot of points where Robert Jordan will say, "Oh, this person had a sense of this or a sense of this," and it sounds like Robert Jordan was slowly planting the seeds that eventually it would be like, I don't know, talking like this over headphones between a water and a bond and a Aes Sedai. So I really
Hmm.
like how Brandon kind of took the next step of that instead of just continuing as is with the
Yeah,
series.
that was a very bold decision, and I even interpreted that the bond happened both ways, like because we have always seen this bond in a unidirectional way in which you have someone bonding another person, but with both of these characters we see them bonding together. It's like one way and the other way around as well. And the way that Brandon explored that mechanic and that dynamic and the closeness of the hearts of the people, that was beautiful. I think, I mean, Brandon is not very good at writing romance, you know, and he's not
Yep.
very explicit about Pevara and Androl falling in love, but I took the freedom to assume that they were slowly falling in love and that this bond was like a catalyst for that, but in a way in which there was no need for saying, "Oh, I love you, honey bunny." I love you, pumpkin, and mwah, 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 kiss, 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 and a hug, or any cheesy stuff. There was no need for anything explicit because only someone who understands love can describe the way these two people were connecting with each other and were close to each other in a emotional and spiritual level. So that's also one of the things that I really enjoy about those two characters arcs. um, it was one of the best relationships in the Wheel of Time, and we have some very good ones because Robert Jordan was good at writing romance, or at least I think he was better than Brandon.
I think Robert Jordan just has a lot more depth to his writing. I've always said that what Robert Jordan can do with one sentence requires three from Brandon, because
Mm.
Robert Jordan just had a lot more kind of uh, experience, just mostly through his experiences in Vietnam, but also
Mhm.
just a lot of life experience that gives him a lot of depth to his writing. And reading the origins and how he was linking it with all these linguistic connections and historical and also folklore connections, I can definitely feel that. And that's what gives The Wheel of Time for me so much readability, because you can find new things every chapter if you
Mhm.
wanted. And
Yeah.
with Brandon, Brandon is very utilitarian. He's very
Yeah.
effective at getting the job done. But for me, I think Robert Jordan is. I come away with a lot more from Robert Jordan's writings, and especially with his character work, where these people feel like real people. You have
Yeah.
your crotchety, what's his face? Senbui. You have your um, out just all the different personalities throughout the series. And with Brandon, his characters always have a shtick or an aspect of themselves that Brandon really latches onto when he's developing them. And it's two different approaches I like both, but especially with the end of the Wheel of Time, and it's just so fulfilling that although it's not Robert Jordan writing the end, Brandon did such a good job with writing these characters, especially Rand, where I
Mhm.
don't even feel as if Robert Jordan wasn't writing Rand. There were
Yeah.
times where I was listening to The Gathering Storm today, and I just got to the point where Rand banished Cadswain from the
Yes.
manor because she didn't let Samarag get him with the male domination band,
Mhm.
but reading Rand and also Luce Theron's sort of raving in the back of his mind, it sounds just as if Robert Jordan is writing it. So
Mhm.
I really like how Brandon was able to not emulate or copy Robert Jordan's style, but for the most part kept in with the spirit of it, which he said he tried very hard to. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think Brandon really truly understood Rand, Perrin, Egwin. I don't know if he was not understanding Matt, but he was not as good at portraying him in comparison with the other guys. But yeah, Rand and Perrin especially, they are like the difference is almost unnoticeable.
yeah, and with Egwene, there was one thing I want to mention is that a lot of that was notes from Robert
Hmm.
Jordan, except
Hmm.
for the ending. And I think the ending was a perfect ending for Egwene. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people want her to live on as the Amerlin for hundreds of years, but I think Egwene's story perfectly matches up with the story of the Aes Sedai who sacrificed herself at Manetheren the
Hmm.
2,000 years ago. And I
Yeah.
love that parallel, and I don't want it any other way. I'd be totally happy if they changed nothing from her story end for the show.
Yeah. Besides everything that Egwin did to reunite the White Tower, perfectly matches the decision that she took in the last battle. So it felt very consistent and very coherent for me, and it felt like something that she was definitely going to do. So no, I mean, of course, I wanted her to live on as the Amberlin, but it was a perfectly devised solution for the problem at hand in that part of the battle.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful. Hmm.
So, are there any loose ends or questions that you have been wondering about, or that you want to discuss, if you haven't already looked
Well,
up the answers?
as I told you, I would need to read again, but something that left me with a feeling of, hey, I want a little bit more. It was not a feeling of, hey, you didn't answer this question. It was a feeling of, I would have liked a little bit more of this plate. Well, the feeling that you get when you go to a restaurant and they give you a delicious plate, but the portion is just a little bit too small.
Yeah.
And you're not left with enough space to have a dessert, a proper dessert, but you're still a little bit hungry. So what made me feel this way was the the philosophical and metaphysical discussion of the Dark One, the creator. Like, I wanted more of that. I think that we got some of that with these chapters in which Randy is proposing a reality and the Dark One is proposing another one, and they are fighting each other. That was I mean, ever since book one, I never imagined Rand sorry, not blending, wielding a calendar and fighting a huge black monster, which was
Hmm.
the Dark One. No, I actually did imagine him like going into a weird kind of uh, hypnosis or dream or Telaran Riot or something in which he, I don't know, deals with the Dark One. So what we saw, that was satisfying. But what is the Dark One? What is it, that entity's place in this realm of existence? Because we got that the Dark One exists outside of the spinning of the Wheel of Time, but we also got that if Dark One doesn't exist, reality feels artificial or plastic, or not the real reality that Rand was experiencing, that Rand knew was the complete wheel. So I don't know why was I I don't know if I was not able to fully grasp the development of that concept, or if it was not as developed as I would have liked. But I wanted more, maybe more explicit, maybe more, I don't know, a Katsuen and Sorilia debate about what happened with Ran and the Dark One, and what the creator is. I don't know. What do you think about that? That's the first question I'm going to ask each of the people that I told through these years. Hey, start reading The Wheel of Time. I have an uncle reading The Shadow Rising. I have a friend reading The Shadow Rising, and we have our friend Tommy reading Winter's Heart. So the moment they finish A Memory of Light, I'm going to go and ask, what did you think of that encounter and that fight?
Well, for me, I absolutely loved it. I actually did think that Rand would have to use Kalandor to fight a big old
Mm.
monster. I was hoping Machin Shen would actually be
Oh.
ripped from the rays somehow from the Dark One. I had a really
Mm-hmm.
cool idea for the last battle that had
Mm-hmm.
the Dark One basically weaving the pattern around and sucking all these different creatures from all these different realities, but that didn't happen.
Mm.
But
Wow. That would have been amazing.
yeah, I would have loved it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my fanfic that I'll write one day. But the
I'm going to
Rand,
buy it.
yeah, the Rand versus the Doc one. I loved it, but I was a little disappointed by how we didn't really get anything with the creator, because we keep hearing about it and we meet the Doc one in the little slug creature thing, because it exists outside the pattern, and Rand brings it into the pattern, and that's when it becomes like a cockroach bug thing. And I wanted more of the creator. The only time we really kind of get the creator is at the end of Eye of the World, when we get that big booming voice when Rand is like, "Oh, I fought Tom and Gaiden. I won. I won the last battle. I killed Shaitan." And you hear this big booming voice as like, "It is not here. It's happening later, idiot." And
Yeah, Che told me that there's a similar moment at the end of A Memory of Light. Like there are two times in which you see the creator. And I
Mhm.
haven't been able to catch that booming voice was the creator when I read The Eye of the World. But it
Yeah,
was.
that was something I discovered after reading Memory of Light, because I forgot basically
Hmm.
everything with the end of Eye of the World, and that is such a great ending to read after reading Memory of
Hmm.
Light and knowing everything in the series, especially with the Green Man. I mean, he's
Oh,
dropping so many hints that
Agnieszka, yeah.
he drops so many hints from Viridian that we learn,
Mhm.
like the whole "Oh, son of a dragon, why are you holding a sword? You Aiel don't like swords," and like just
Mhm.
out in the open telling us everything about Rand. But at this point,
Yeah.
we don't even know what any of these words or terms mean.
Mhm.
And the other creative voice, I think, is at the end, I want to say. Because I
Yeah.
think there's a point in the epilogue that Robert Jordan wrote where he says that somebody is looking at the funeral pyre when Rand body switches with Moradin.
Sí.
And Brandon says that that was never answered, so he put in Nakomi to Towers of Midnight for Avienda's Viridian visit.
Yeah.
And have you read the part of the Origins where they say who Nakomi is?
No, but I assume that she was a personification of the creator somehow.
Yeah, she basically is. She's what Shida Huron is for the Dark One. So kind of like the
She's
right
like
hand
who?
man. Shida Huron.
Oh. Oh, the horrible halfman.
Yeah, the super Meadral.
The super Myrdral, yeah. Mega
Yeah,
Myrdral.
she's basically him, but for the creator. So
Oh,
I
the
wish,
anti-halfman.
yeah, and it's stuff like that that I wish we got more of, because
Yeah.
there's so many little things that are interesting to me reading this book. But I think that's about it for me on that. Did I answer the question enough?
Yeah, yeah. I want to ask you as well, what do you think that happened with the Dark One?
The Dark One? Uh,
Because he definitely was not destroyed, because, I mean, it was very clearly pointed out that he was not to be destroyed. So what happened to him?
so my understanding of what happened is that Rand was
Hmm.
finally able to do what Lews Therin could not, because Lews Therin couldn't get anybody who had access to Saidar to contribute to locking up the Dark
Hmm.
One, and Rand was able to. So he was finally able to use both Saidar and Saidin and the true power, I think he says,
Yeah.
in the
Hmm.
text, to finally create a super boy prison. But as we know, there is no beginning nor ending to the Wheel of Time. So
Yeah.
eventually, that prison is going to be drilled into, in my opinion.
Of course.
And it's
Yeah.
going to come back around, and we're going to have exactly the same thing.
Hmm.
And so I think it's really just like a super powered edition of what Lews Therin did, and that's bound to fail eventually. There might be an age after this, the fourth age, that goes really well. Mostly reforming the Shanshan Empire,
Yeah.
all the ideas that Robert Jordan had for the sequels. And then after that, it's just going to be chaos, I think. I don't think Cad's Reign would be a good Amelin.
Why not? You don't like her much, right?
I like her. Bef- I don't know. I understand why people like her, but to me, I can't stand how she treats Rand. Uh,
Hmm.
I think she's just pushing him when she shouldn't be doing that. It's hard to
Yeah, but
explain, but like,
it makes sense that she's that way because she's an arrogant 600 years old Aes Sedai.
yeah, I
And
understand it.
Green
I just,
Asha,
yeah.
on top of that. With all due respect to the Green Asha, but you know that they. I understand that that character feels entitled to boss Rand around, the goddamn Dragon Reborn, and also a human being.
Yeah.
Not just the Dragon Reborn, a human being. Poor guy.
Yeah, and especially bullying Tam and I think Gathering Storm. I'm right around there right
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
And how she treats Tam is so infuriating. And Tam is like,
Mm.
yep, okay, now I see why my son almost killed me just now. Because he's had this Aes Sedai with him this entire time since Moraine left. And
Mm-hmm.
that is one loose end that I wish we had more of was Moraine at the end. Because we have such a long time between her supposed death and her rescue from the Tower of Genji that I I think I wanted more from her resolution. I'm not sure. How'd you feel about
You,
Moraine?
I did not see her. I didn't see her coming back. That was surprising for me, and I thought that it made sense, but I would have liked to understand a little better what happened to her during all the time. I would have liked to see the scenes, but I mean, the saga was very long. I mean, making it longer would have been like pointless, I guess. But she went through a lot in there, and I think that was important. There could have been some other stuff shortened in order to have I don't know. We when do we get the reveal that she's alive at the end of Knife of Dreams, right?
Yeah, it's Night for Dreams.
Okay, you could have like let us know that she's still alive one book before, and you could have showed us flashbacks from her during her stay or her arrival at the Tower of Genji or the weird snakes and foxes place through the red archway, Terangriel. But yeah, I feel like we deserve a little bit more of Moiraine going through that. I agree with you in that sense.
Yeah, like we hear a lot about her and Lanfio in the Tower of
Hmm.
Genji, and
Yeah.
that I actually when they cleanse Sidene, we get Sindane, the
Hmm.
Forsaken weird person. Never
Yeah.
before seen before that, I don't think.
Hmm.
Well, actually, we get her in early Winter's Heart. Never mind. But she. I always had a theory that she was Lanfio, and it was only because of one line where she mentions being fed upon or something like that, and it ends up that
Hmm.
that's what was happening to her and Moraine was that the snakes and foxes were just gathering
Hmm.
emotions and memories from them in order to do something with it. I'm not sure. They don't really explain that. It's all stuff I've had to learn from Reddit
Hmm.
or Dragon Mount, stuff like that.
Yeah, they were attracted to that the same way I am attracted to spoilers. They found that, I don't know, exhilarating, I guess. Yeah, Moiraine deserve a better, I don't know if better, but a longer ending.
Yeah,
That
and
she.
I also wouldn't have minded some more Machin Shin because I
Hmm.
loved everything about that creature.
Because
And
Machination is great. Yeah.
yeah, and I was really hoping that the Dark One would rip it from the rays and kind of just unleash it on the
Mm,
last battle, because there are a lot of souls, a lot of tasty, hungry souls. And
mhm,
Machin Shin is a hungry, hungry caterpillar and must eat all the souls. And there are more than enough souls at the last battle. And so I was really hoping
mhm.
for something with that. But I'm trying to think any other loose ends on my end. Maybe more Shara, but at the same time, that's such a great reveal that Demand Dread has Shara under his control and is like, okay, here you guys go, and lets all of them through at a pivotal moment of the last battle. I'm hoping for the TV show that they keep all that, but show like one not flashback, but one, say, episode opener a season until the final season of just
Mhm.
something with Demand Dread
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
better set that up.
that was kind of unexpected for me. But I assume okay, it is what it is. I'm going to go on reading.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was foreshadow or something, but I didn't notice before. Eh,
yeah,
who
yeah. Because
knows?
throughout the whole series, they keep saying something's weird happening with
Hmm.
Shawe, but we never really find out anything about it. And we go a few books without hearing anything about it, and then they all pop
Hmm.
up at the end of not the end of the last battle, but in the lead up to the
No.
last battle.
Yeah.
I think, unless it happens in the middle of the last battle, because that is a 230-page chapter or something.
Yeah.
How was the last
Yeah.
battle for you, reading it?
Oh, in my opinion, the last battle was the complete 14th book of the Wheel of Time. A Memory of Light is the last battle, from beginning to end.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think I was. It was painful. I was in pain. Yeah, that was how I was. Completely in pain through my journey to the last battle because everything was despair and suffering and hopelessness. That was so well made, and I was like, this is what war feels like. I mean, I don't know if Brandon was able to do such a good and realistic. I mean, I say realistic because I don't know what real war is like, fortunately, you know? But it felt realistic. And it felt different from any other war I have ever read because it was not glorified. It was horrible. It was horror and terrible and painful and anguishing. Every terrible adjective that you can think, it was that. And TV shows, movies, pop culture tend to show war as a part of, I don't know, history, a part of life, something, an opportunity to become a hero. And I think that the way I see war in fiction has changed forever after A Memory of Light, after the last battle. And I don't know if that was something that Brandon managed to preserve from Robert Jordan's notes, or if Brandon is just that good at understanding people's emotions, which is a possibility because we have read the Stormlight Archive. We know that he gets human emotions, even if he doesn't write characters as well as Robert Jordan, because he's still a great character writer. But
Hmm.
Robert Jordan is the writer. um, it was I felt like a visceral movement of emotions in my belly through those chapters. It was very hard to read. I mean, I wanted to have a very long reading session, but I just couldn't. I kept having to put the book down and do something else because it was too much.
Hmm.
So
I don't know. I get super involved in books and characters and stories and everything. I feel the stories in my body a lot, but it's overwhelming. It's emotionally overwhelming. The last battle. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I remember I did actually end up reading that entire chapter in one day, and then the rest of the
I don't know.
chapters. I
I don't
read,
know how you.
yeah, it was a very intense day, and I remember um, starting at like 9 a.m. I think, and I read for a couple hours, had lunch, read for a few more hours, finished the last battle, and then I had the last I think 200 pages because it's I think 10 more chapters after the big last battle, chapter 37 uh, section. And I remember finishing it that night and putting it down and just like looking off in the distance, like I'm done, because I had read New Spring by that point. And the last
Hmm.
battle, I know a lot of people died, but I feel like not enough people died.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Yeah, like I thought Perrin was going to die. I thought Matt was going to die. I thought
Perrin
more
should have
people.
probably died.
Yeah,
Perrin
because
should have died when he was like attacked and almost killed in the dream world,
mm-hmm.
in the world of dreams.
I
He
thought
should
Matt
have.
died against Patton Fane because he says like, well, there's a line at the end of that perspective where it's like Matt stabbed Patton Fane with the cursed dagger, and then they both died or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, like they just
Oh
died.
yeah,
And
I
then
read that they both
yeah,
died, but it was Padam Fane and the other thingy in there.
yeah,
Lan should
Mordeth.
have died as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
I think that
I thought that would have been the perfect end for Matt, but
yeah.
I mean, he
No, I
had
mean
plans for Matt in the sequels. Robert Jordan did, so wouldn't have been
I
good to
didn't
kill
want
him. But
I didn't want Matt to die there, but I don't know. It felt a little bit plot armor ish that
mm-hmm.
Perrin survived and Matt survived that. Um, what I'm thinking now is that Lan should have died. He should have,
Yeah, yeah, that was
in order
another tiny
to fulfill
nitpick of mine.
right, to fulfill the foreshadowing of sheathing the sword on yourself and this concept that duty is heavier than a mountain and death is lighter than a feather. He should have. But I don't know if it could have made sense that Nynaeve was kept functional for Rand to achieve what he had to achieve if Lan would have died.
Mm-hmm.
Because we see, I mean, part of what happens to Egwene and her rash decision of immolating herself, I think, has to do with the intense and immense sense of loss and mourning that she felt after Gawain died, that she forced herself to push down inside of her heart in order to keep fighting, and
Mm-hmm.
that made her explode. And she was warned, like, mother, she was told, you should not do this, there are consequences, and the consequences happened. They did happen. And Lan died if Lan would have died, something similar would have happened to Nynaeve, and that could have endangered the ending that Brandon needed to make happen, with the epilogue and everything we've been discussing about that
Mm-hmm.
being already pre-written. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that was actually the moment that was spoiled to me early in the series because the TV show was announced and the casting was announced, and they had the picture with Yosha, um, oh my gosh, Zoe Robbins,
Mm-hmm.
Rosamund Pike, all of them, and the Daniel Henney was right there in the picture too. And I remember everyone was like, "The golden crane flies again. The golden crane flies again." And somebody copy and pasted that paragraph was Lan running up to Demandred and doing the sheathing the sword,
Mm-hmm.
and Rand then
That was
resurrecting.
kind of shitty.
Yeah,
That was kind of shitty.
yeah. And I remember my theory is that Lan did die after killing Demandred, because there's no way, but that Rand resurrected him because he was
Hmm.
basically weaving the pattern so intensely at that point. So my theory has always been that Lan did die, but that I almost said Yosha, that Rand resurrected him. And I've always really loved that moment, although it was spoiled to me. And that was
Mm,
around the time when I was reading book 4, book 5. So
that
for a while I
sucks.
was waiting for that moment. I thought
That's
Towers, no, not Towers of Minute, Crown of Swords. I thought Crown of Swords was going to be about the reclamation of Malkier and the
oh.
towers of
Hmm.
whatever. Towers of Malkier. But I'm trying to think. Are there any other characters you want to talk about with this book or events?
Hmm.
How was
Um,
Loghain's story for you?
It was not enough glorious as it was anticipated it would be.
Agreed.
That's my feeling. But still, I mean, what he did was still, I mean, it was not presented in such a pompous and s- spectacular way, but what he did was great, you know, because he was able to fight his own madness that he still retains. He was able to fight ambition and greed, and he was able to leave everything aside to save people that was basically, I'm sorry to say that, but basically worthless in the battle.
Mm-hmm.
And that went against everything that he stood for at that point of the story. So, um, yeah, it was cute, but I did not think it was glorious. I think that what Lan did was glorious,
Yeah.
but it's a different kind of glory. The glory of seeing people uh, grateful, like truly truly grateful from the very bottom of their hearts and souls, looking into your eyes, that must be like a pretty fucking glorious moment. But it was not built up in such a spectacular way, sadly.
Yeah, I was very disappointed with it. I've always
Oh,
had the uh, kind of belief that Brandon was so excited to have Androl and being able to finally kind of play with the ideas he's had with Androl
that
that
you
he's,
forgot about again.
yeah, completely sidelined Loghain. And I get that it was glorious that he kind of brought kind of not enjoyment but respect to the Black Tower, because nobody in the entire Third Age respected male channelers, and so for
Mm-hmm.
Loghain to be the one to finally gain that respect was really nice. But at the same time, I wanted more. I,
Mm.
I've always said that it would have been nice to have some Loghain and Rand team up moments. And I thought Loghain would be with Rand during the last battle. And
Sis.
I had no idea that Rand was going to go directly to Shale Ghul right in the beginning of the battle, even before the battle began. And then the last battle begins, and then Rand is already in there. I thought the Dark One would be unleashed, and he would have to fight his way to Shale Ghul.
Right.
But
Yeah, that would
he got
make
there
sense.
easy with that ring, I guess.
There's a reality in here, friend, and it's that sequels were intended, plot lines were intended to keep developing, and that was unfortunately not a thing that could happen anymore after, you know. Um, like for example, I think that the whole foreshadowing of Logain's being glorious and surrounded by this golden aura around himself, I think that would have been paid off in a sequel, for example. If
Hmm.
we would have got a sequel in which we see what happened after the third age was over, a fourth age sequel, he, Logain probably turned into some sort of hero, historical figure, a proser, you know? So, mm, um, he probably would have been more important and more glorified in there. I also would have liked some of our characters come back after they died and the horn was sounded. For
Hmm.
example, I was kind of expecting Egwene to come back as a hero of the horn, but she didn't. I was expecting that maybe Moiraine died and she would come back as a hero of the horn right after. Sorry, right up to the point in which they told us that she's still alive. That was my theory after book 5. I truly thought she was dead for real, gone for good,
Hmm.
and I thought she's probably gonna come back as a hero of the horn in the last battle, and she didn't. And no one did. Like Lan could have been a great hero of the horn. Matt could have died and become a hero of the horn, but he specifically said that he would refuse and reject the job offer. So I guess that was at least something. But yeah, more people should have died, and it would have been nice to see them, to see this myriad of heroes incorporate some of our beloved characters, to take up that role in the future weavings of the wheel.
Yeah.
That was something we would have wanted. Hmm.
Yeah, I thought Egwene would be part of the Horn, Heroes of the Horn. And
Hmm.
one explanation that I've sort of accepted now is that maybe there's like I mean, it's a joke, but maybe there's like paperwork that has to be done in between you dying and becoming a hero of the Horn. And that, and the next time it's sounded, she'll be there. That's sort of my kind of uh,
Right, because
acceptance.
when she dies, Rand sees her dying and he hears her voice saying, "Why wouldn't you let us be heroes as well?" And I was like, "Oh, this is it. This is it. She is announcing that she's becoming a hero of the Horn." I don't know. Funny paperwork. Yeah.
Because I was disappointed that she didn't come back, and I had a inkling because Bella is killed in the text,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I reject it because I just don't like it. And I know Harriet and Brandon go back and forth on it. They talked about it in the 10th anniversary stream, how
Mm-hmm.
Brandon tried to keep Bella alive. Harriet said no, she must die because that's what Brandon
Oh.
wrote or something. But in the companion, Team Jordan said that she was still alive and produced very strong foals or fowls. So
Oh.
I mean, it's like back and forth. But I was kind of hoping that Egwene would come back on Bella as a hero of the
Oh, that would
Horn,
have been
because now
so
she's a
nice.
yeah, and she'd be a steed of the Horn. Like I would have
Mhm.
really liked that. And I've heard some people say that the Bella that died is the one that Egwene took from Tel'aran'rhiod from
Mhm.
book 5 when she went to Saladar, and that's not
Mhm.
actually Bella. Bella is just somewhere else and was brought back from wherever she was. That was one theory I
Okay.
heard. I was like, okay, I'll accept it. Why not?
I will accept whatever I need to accept. Yeah.
But what about sort
Uh-huh.
of what about some of the Forsaken? What do you think of them, whether as a
Hmm.
whole or individually? Were you happy with what
Mogideon,
happened, or what?
Mogideon, beautiful, beautiful closure for her. Beautiful, wonderful, amazing. Grendel, wonderful as well. I love that. I love that she ended up caught up on the messed up fucking twisted composition wave that she was trying to plant on Avienda. Um, Chef Kiss ended up um, like re- re- coming back to her, you know. So yeah, I really like that, and she was my ever since she appeared and we started to meet her and get to know how she worked. I decided that she was my favorite Forsaken, and I love that she was such a formidable enemy antagonist
Hmm.
till the very end. So I was very satisfied with Grendel as a character through the whole saga. Mogideon, I felt like she was a little bit buffed in everyone's mind and that she was not as cool and terrible as everyone thought. I would have switched Mogideon with Semirhash because Semirhash was terrifying.
Oh yeah.
uh, m- Much more terrifying than Mogideon. Mogideon is actually a coward, but it also makes sense that a coward survived that long. So I have mixed feelings about that. That she gets caught up in the Sunshine network of selling people and slavery. Even though I hate the Sunshine, ever since book two, and I hate them at the end of the saga, and I will always hate them, it's a fitting ending for her. And well, the others, I didn't think they were that remarkable. The rest of the Forsakens, I mostly enjoy the female ones. The male ones were very similar to each other, except the interesting ones. You know, the one that comes back in the body of a woman, and of course Moridin or Cedronai or Balsamon or Ishamael, one of his 1,000 names. Other than them, I mean, Demandred was May, in my opinion, as a concept. Of course, he was a formidable foe. He was very powerful, but it was meh as a concept. And the others also meh. The ladies were the juicy, interesting part. And well, talking about the Forsaken, this 10 years old reveal that we got a week ago, I'm completely upset about that.
And
I
we're
did not.
talking about that Lanfear is still out and about, and that she
Yeah, yeah.
composed Perrin and tricked him the last three books to
No,
survive because he's the only one everyone would believe.
no, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense, especially after all the work that Perrin has been doing with himself, and that he was able to have such a strong mind that he could manage to do everything he did in the world of dreams. How can that be? How can it be conceivable that he was just composed to let her live and confuse him? The man can literally shape reality to his will when he's in the world of dreams. She was not that powerful. She was actually very fucking weak. And she was not the queen of compulsion. If Grendel would have done that, I would have said, yes, I accept that. I accept that, and I scream out of excitement. But Lanfair, she was, no, no. So, yeah, did not like that.
Yeah,
She should have stayed there.
yeah. My issue with it is that I think Perrin peaked in book four with the Battle of Two Rivers. I think
Mm-hmm.
everything after that, I don't really care much about Perrin after that. I think he's
Oh.
great when he rescues Fael
Mm-hmm.
in Knife of Dreams, and
From the shadow.
yeah, from the
Mhm.
Shido, and I really like his hammer building scene,
Yeah.
and like that's about it. I felt
Oh.
like him mastering Tel'aran'rhiod happened way too late. because he
Yeah.
was already pretty formidable in book 4 when he was going against Slayer. And Slayer is somebody who I do not care a single inkling for. He was around way too long, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's something different on the show that needs to be kind of shortened. Have Perrin, have the Battle for Two Rivers happen later, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Have the White Cloaks capture Fail and have them start an alliance with the Shido, like something, in order to
Mm-hmm.
make the show shorter, because they're not going to do all 14 books
No.
for a book a season. Like, that's not going to happen. They're going to change stuff, and that's one thing that I've been really wanting the last few months is combining the White Cloak stuff with Aemon Valda that's happening with
Mm-hmm.
Morghese and all that. Have that
Yeah.
happen with the Shido, and have them both kidnap Fail in order
Oh,
to be a wagering, or not a wager, but yeah, I guess a wager ransom for
the
the White
Shadow were
Cloaks.
such a pain in the ass, and they stood way too long.
The who?
The Shadow.
Oh yeah, yeah, I agree. I used to defend. I mean, I still don't believe that there's a slog, but the main issue I have with that section of books is Perrin, because again, he's just standing around trying to decide what to do for 3 or 4 books. The chapters were far too spread out, and I think that's another plus for the show is that they can shorten that.
Yeah.
Because I would have been
Yeah.
fine with Perrin disappearing for a book or two, just like Pfizer Heaven.
Yeah, but Perrin. Sorry, Perrin's is being portrayed in a complicated way in the TV show ever since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally ever since the first episode. So I don't know. I think that's probably an indicator that your dream will come true and they will change his arc a lot
Mm-hmm.
because it's not profitable to make a character in a TV show that's like Perrin. To have a character like Perrin in a book, yeah, sure, okay, but in a TV show, doesn't make any sense. So they
It's all
have to change.
internal.
Yeah, yeah, they have to change it, and they are changing it. So maybe you get what you want.
I hope.
Um, who else?
What about
Yeah.
Asmodean for the Forsaken? So I know we both are
I
huge fans of him as D&D lovers.
yeah, yeah. He was super cool. I mean, when he showed up, and he was active in the story, he and Grendel were my favorites. But since um, he was such an early death, an early killed, that was a shame. The only other male Forsaken we got that was interesting, rather than Moridin, he gets killed. So what a shame. I think it's also a little bit problematic that they died so many times and they come back so many times.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I accept it for what it was. I was like, I guess it's okay. That one can bring you back unless you've been touched by Balefire. But it felt weird and problematic that everyone died and then come back.
Yeah,
Mm.
I hope they lessen that a little bit, especially with Erengar and Osingar, Balal and Agenor, because they don't really do anything once they're resurrected. I mean, they're there, they're hiding out, spying on Igraine, and I
I
guess
think
they are stuff,
Arangar
but
is important. Now, Arangar is important and was interesting.
what do
It
they
was
do?
very first. Um, they were a female body weaving Saidin, and that's something that's very tricky to deal with if you're not on their side of
Mm-hmm.
the fight. So I think that's potentially something interesting. But the concept and the thingy with the transsexuality is also kind of weird. but also the gender identity in the Wheel of Time is kind of weird because you have this binary thingy with the saidin and saidar, and I don't know. I think they have interesting material to turn that into something better, as
Hmm.
something more contemporaneous, something more connected with what nowadays is happening around gender, you know? Like, for example, I would have assumed that if you are a Forsaken that weaves Saidin and has a male body and you died and you come back in a woman body, at the beginning I guess that you weave Saidin, but then you start weaving Saidaras. You decide that you feel okay with being a woman, sorry. And maybe they could have you use both of the powers because the powers have to do with your soul, the fact that you can weave Saidin or Saidar. So if this character was changed to the point that was okay feeling like a woman, being a woman, and he became a woman, then why not make him use Saidar? Spiritually he decided he was a woman, so she was a woman. So I don't know, that transition could potentially be interesting in the TV show.
Yeah, and that was
But
the Dark One who decided that Agnor was going, or Balal, one of them,
yeah, the
would
problem
be a
the
woman.
problem is that being a woman, I mean, becoming a transsexual person basically was a punishment.
Hmm.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and that should be changed for the show
Hmm.
because it is an interesting concept, but it doesn't really
Yeah,
go anyway. Is my issue.
if if the Dark One would have chosen a female body because of this uh spying thing, that would have been smart and brilliant and cool. But saying, haha, being transsexual is a punishment for you, that's not cool. That's complex. But okay, the rest of them, I mean, for example, Ravin could be fused with Demandred, I guess. The one that was the leader of Tyr in book 3 or 2,
Balal
unremarkable. Yeah,
or
unremarkable.
Balthamel?
Balthamel was the one that dies with Aginor in the first book.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So Balthamel and Belal, meh. Aginor, I actually think that Balthamel was Arangar and Aginor was Osangar. Osangar, I mean, lots of them can be fused into something,
Hmm.
so that we shorten the plots and we have a smaller pool of villains, and we avoid this thing of them dying and coming back so much, and we make them do more scary things, because if one of the characters in the TV show does what three of the Forsaken did in the books, that character is much more scary
Oh yeah.
than the actual Forsakens that we read about. Yeah, I don't know. Who am I to talk about this? I am a chemist, for light's sake. Oh, yeah, it would be fun. It will be fun to watch the TV show and see what happens.
Oh yeah. Did you ever find out who killed Asmodean?
I googled that because I was just tired. I was because I was supposed to have found out after book 11, I think.
It's in the appendix of book 13. That's what I
Well,
found out,
I never
and
got
it's
it.
annoying.
I never got it, and I never saw that. And it was Grendel, right?
Yeah,
I
Grendel.
think
Yep.
I had to Google that, and actually, our friend Tommy he figured that out.
Hmm.
He did. He was like he was making theories and trying to think and considering options, and he said like, yeah, she's probably the one who did it. And I was like, okay, bitch, insightful fucking bitch got it. And easy for him. He was in book 5 actually.
Oh
But
wow.
why was that such a big deal? Why?
It's one thing I tell people don't worry about whenever I see someone saying like they're on book 6 and they're like, "Ooh, what happened?" And I remember I made a prediction that somebody was going to come in, and now that Asmodean was dead, and be his kind of advisor, and it'd be someone bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it was much, much later that I found out that Taim and Demandred was supposed to be one person. But around the time of book 8, book 9, Robert Jordan changed it for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people figured it out, and there are notes of his that you can look up,
Uh-huh.
which are available on the Dusty Wheel episode all about who killed Asmodean. They showed the
Yeah.
notes, like it was Taim slash Demandred who killed Asmodean, but then he
Uh-huh.
changed it, and it's very disappointing to me because I think that's such a great kind of twist, because having Taim be a Forsaken, teaching Rand after
Mm-hmm.
killing the one Forsaken who was actually helping Rand.
Yeah.
And I didn't really
Oh.
like how it didn't really matter in the end. No one thinks about Asmodean again. No one really cares where he went. And it's just kind of dropped. And I hope the TV show keeps Taim Dread, which is what people call
Time to.
it.
Oh, that actually makes a whole lot of a ton of sense because when I was reading the prologue for the Lord of Chaos, the Mandred is talking with the Dark One in Shayogul, and he says, "Let the Lord of Chaos reign." And after that, like halfway through the Lord of Chaos book, we see that Tame shows up and becomes someone, and blah blah blah, etc. And I was like, "Oh, this guy is probably the Mandred." And then I saw the cover of a Japanese edition of the books, and I saw the Mandred. Sorry, I saw Tame, and I was like, "Oh, he's the Lord of Chaos." So right, it makes sense. And then he wasn't, and I was like, "Okay, I guess I was confused." But now that you say this, right, that makes so much more sense.
Especially at the end of Lord of Chaos, after Demise Wells, the final perspective is Demandred with the Dark One and Sheol going, "I did well, didn't I, Dark One?" And the
Yeah,
Dark One laughs, and boom, end of book 6.
right.
And
I
like, there's so many hints for it that I wish
Mhm.
Robert Jordan would have stuck with it.
Mm. Yeah, that was definitely problematic. It's a pity. It's a pity.
Yeah. Um, what about Ruak's death? That's kind of like the last character. I keep forgetting that he died because I don't like how he died.
Who?
Ruak? Walk?
Oh, Ruark. Um, it was very sad. I mean, he got composed by Grendel and then he was killed by Avienda. Yeah, sad.
I don't like it.
I mean, I accept it. I can accept that. It's very sad, but I can take it.
Yeah, I just always
Why
forget
was
it.
it a big deal for you? Did you like Ruark very much?
Oh, I liked him a lot. He
Mm-hmm.
was somebody who I thought would have a bigger impact on the story. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
Aiel characters, like Bane and Chiad, for example, we don't really hear about them again after book 4.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
captured with Fael, I believe, but we never get a POV of them. No one really cares about them. Ruark,
Mm-hmm.
he has a little more to do, but again, he's just kind of left in the dirt with all the other Aiel characters outside of Sorelia, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Avienda obviously has an awesome story arc, but not many other Aiel characters.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm happy that they're bringing in the Aiel for season 2. And we've gotten some pretty awesome clips of them so
Mm-hmm.
far from the teaser trailer. So there's an awesome one with the Mohawk. I'm excited to see
Mm.
who that character is.
Yeah, the Ayu are my favorite culture, and if I were to choose a thing to be in the world of the Wheel of Time, I would like to be a wise one with the Aiel. I love them, and I love Gietoids. It's a wonderful concept.
Oh yeah, I would personally be a tinker, but also technically I am because an Aiel is a tinker. Back in the Age of
Yeah,
Legends.
kind of, yeah.
But I really love the tinker culture a lot, and I'm
Hmm.
happy they actually played a role in the
Yeah,
last battle.
they
I
had.
wasn't expecting that.
That was well deserved, and that had to happen. It was necessary.
What'd you think of Men's character arc in Memory of Light? Her becoming the Shan Whisperer or whatever.
I hate that. Absolutely hate,
Same.
because I hate the sunshine. I
Hmm.
hate that my favorite character is the Prince of Ravens. I hate that. I hate his association with that horrible culture. And I dislike Tuon for Tuona, whatever. I dislike her a lot. Um yeah, no, I'm not happy about that at all.
Yeah, I have a feeling for the show that they're going to expand it by a lot or not have it. Matt's
Mm,
kind of foreshadowing with that because it doesn't really matter in the end.
yeah.
Because with his luck, he doesn't need to be married to Tuon for the Shan to become allied with
Mhm.
everybody at the end. And that was one thing that I didn't like either. That the Shan in the middle of the last battle just leaves, and they're like, "Yeah, it actually is. We're leaving now," and they leave with men and
Mm,
all that. And I'm
They
like,
do
really?
because Matt tells them to do so in that weird, indirect, messed up, twisted way. But um, I don't think that. I mean, everything that happens because of his deep connection with his wife, Portuana, the Empress. And I didn't like the way they fell in love. Hmm. Supposedly, I didn't feel like that was a very mad way to experience love. I mean, he was basically just accepting the stupid snakes and foxes had told him that he would marry the daughter of the nine moons. And yeah, I mean, if they said so, I guess he had to, but he didn't have to fall in love with her. He could have a friend in her, or a political ally, or just a political marriage. Come on, that happens a lot in fantasy. Why do they have to like fall in love with each other? They're Yeah, that couple doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I moderately liked them both in Crossroads of Twilight when they're at Val and Luca's circus and they're just talking to each other. I think that's
Uh,
the best part of the entire thing because they're just talking like normal human beings. But then it just goes
but she
right back
calls him
to,
toy.
hmm?
She
Yeah,
keeps calling him toy.
yeah, I hate that too. I don't know. I want it changed for the TV show.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want him to have to fall in love with Tuon.
Hmm.
And I hate Beslan and his mom, Tylan. I hate everything every Dar for the most part. The
Yeah,
Cloud Bowl wasn't really an interesting thing for me. Uh, I was just kind of done with it.
the golem was cool. The golem, right?
Oh, the
No.
Golem? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It
Yeah, I found
was
it cool.
okay. Went on a little
Hmm.
too long, in my opinion. I mean, I
Maybe.
thought it was dead already. And I was listening to Gathering Storm today, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Hey, like we still gotta fight the Golem," and I was like, "Really? Like I thought it was done." I'm like,
Yeah, agreed. Yep, yep. So yeah.
What about Loyal?
Yeah.
Anything with Loyal?
Oh, um, I
I'll
would
just
have
go down the
liked to
list.
see I would have liked to see more about him post the last battle.
Yeah.
I- Like we didn't get to see almost anything. Only that he was looking for Rand Martin Perrin to write the book and finish it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I was expecting also more excerpts from the book that he supposedly wrote to show up. I don't know. I feel like the saga, the everything, the story finishes right after the last battle finishes. You know,
Hmm.
and that was weird for me. I thought that we were going to see more of of what happened after the last battle, before the
Hmm.
book was over, and Loyal is caught up uh, in that hope that I had to see what happened after. But no, the thing was Rand has been prophesied to become the Dragon Reborn and fight Tarmongaidon and die, and he does, and that's it. The end.
Yeah, and that was a funny thing with the 10th anniversary live stream last week. Is that he was saying he could have written 3 more books if he wanted, but he decided not to because it had to end and he didn't want to do more. But I would have liked more with what Rand is doing after. He just kind of goes off with, in my head, Bella. Uh, and we hear nothing else, really. He lights his pipe, which no one has an answer to. Do you have any theories on how he lit the pipe? Is
He
that something that
probably
struck
found
you?
a match or a tinderbox around and just fucking did it.
Well, it's really weird wording because he says he lit his impossible pipe, I think.
Hmm.
I'm trying to find it. But basically, because this is actually a huge thing that Michael Livingston and Team Jordan were trying to get the answer to, is
Mm-hmm.
that Robert Jordan wrote the epilogue around the time where he died, and he dictated it with his voice how the final epilogue was going to be. And he
Yeah.
had that part about the impossible pipe, and Maria Simmons, I believe,
Yeah.
or Sarah Nakamura, one of the Team Jordan people. Uh,
Maria and
yeah,
Alan.
Maria. Uh,
Hmm.
she was gonna ask him about the pipe on Monday, and
But he died on
yeah, he died on
Sunday.
Sunday. I think they talk about it in Origins. And that was around the time that around the time of me reading Origins, where it was
Mm.
kind of hit because I never knew about the Wheel of Time when he died, so I
Mm.
didn't really know like the feeling. But Origins really goes into that so well. Kind of what the feeling was for a fan when he died. It was really
Yeah,
sad.
it's terrible. But I mean, is the pipe thing that important after all? Why is everyone so obsessed with the stupid pipe? He
I
had a
don't
good
know.
old smoke,
To
a good
me,
old Lemons Field tobacco smoke, and that's it.
yeah, because Harriet thinks that Rand has a whole new power that will greatly influence the Fourth Age. I've always thought it was because Rand has such a mastery over the pattern that he's able to just kind of will things to how he
Mhm.
wants it. And we
But
see
he's
that
no
with the
longer
realities.
Tavern.
Huh?
I assume or interpreted that he and Perrin and Matrim are not longer Tavern after the last battle.
Yes. But with this, it's different from Tavir in this because Rand was able to twist the different realities together using whatever power he was doing. So I can see Harriet's hypothesis that's a new power that he's using. But to
It
me,
doesn't
it's.
make.
Hmm?
I don't know. Does it really matter if he had a different power? I mean,
Not really, no.
was
But it's fun.
I don't know. if you tell me like that there's going to be another book or a sequel or something, and that the seed for the new power was planted in that small detail of the pipe, then yay, interesting, wow. But otherwise, it's like, come on, the guy was fucking dying. He made a mistake, and that's it. Or I don't know. That's not where the end. That's not the important and relevant message of the end. How did he manage to light the pipe? The message is that he didn't have any more pain. For example, I find it much more relevant that he was finally being able to wake up and not feel pain.
Yep.
That's not trivial at all. That's huge. Because I actually like even think that Robert Jordan was dying. He was probably going through a lot of pain himself. And I hope you've never had to go through any health issue that was very painful. But if you had, or if someone out there has, then you know that when you go through that, and when you start to heal, and when you one day wake up and realize that you feel better and you don't feel any pain, and you remember, yeah, but last month I was kind of in a very shitty place physically. Now, not feeling any actual pain is like a blessing. And imagine, I mean, I've never been through such a huge pain. I've had issues with my health, small issues actually. But imagine Rand, what he was feeling constantly. And he woke up in a new body, literally.
Hmm.
That was huge. That was something that blew my mind, not the pipe thing.
Yeah, the
It,
pipe is
it
a huge kind of fan kind of debate about that.
uh,
So,
that's something of people who cannot let go. I think.
yeah. And I really liked, because that was one of the criticisms I heard about the book when I finished, was that Rand just kind of goes off on his own direction. I'm like, I'm okay with that, because he finally gets to live a life. He's no
Mhm.
longer weighed down by prophecy and
Oh
the
yeah.
snakes and foxes, the Aes Sedai, and trying to get in control of his life. Like, I'm okay with him just going off to wherever. Yes, he's abandoning his kids, but what's to say that he's not going to come back and take care of them? He's off to go vacation for a week or two. Like, let him get used to
Yeah.
this new body. Let him enjoy like the break he can finally have. Because ever since the first chapter we see with Rand, he is basically just getting stresses piled up on top of him
Yes.
from chapter one
After
all the way to the epilogue.
Winter Night, was it called? I think it's the fifth chapter
Yep,
in the Eye
Winter's
of
Night.
the World. Winter's Night, that thing. Fifth chapter, and then 14 books of the guy literally suffering every day a little bit more.
Him
Mm.
being stuffed in a box and tortured.
Oh my god, yeah.
Semiraj torturing him and making him choke men. I just listened to that earlier today. That chapter.
That I think that was one of the worst thing that he had to endure, because the box I thought was the worst, but then that happened, and he had to watch the woman he loved slowly dying, slowly like losing the ability to breathe and stay alive because he was choking her without having control of his own will. So that's messed up, man. That was terrible.
And he was able to use the true power, which only happens if the Dark One lets you. And in
Mm.
my head, like, I didn't realize that when I was reading it the first time, but this most recent time this morning when I listened to the chapter,
Mhm.
I was like, wait a minute. Like, the Dark One allowed him to
Yeah, that
use.
was the ultimate gaslight.
Yeah,
you know.
like, Semirhage failed so hard that he, or that the Dark One gave Rand for like half a second enough of the true power to break out of his own sort of
Hmm.
trap
Yeah.
and then kill
Yeah.
Semirhage. It's kind of
It was
crazy.
the ultimate manipulative gaslighter resource. What the Darwin pulled in there.
Who will be nameless?
Hmm. Yeah. Something that was not very clear to me was how why was there like an obsession between the Forsaken going on about Rand becoming one of them. He was never intended to
That,
become one of them, right?
the Doc one wanted him to become one of the chosen because if he died, then they would be doomed to fight the last battle eventually because
Mm-hmm.
his soul would be spit back out. So the only way the Doc one could see stopping the last battle and winning ultimately was to recruit Rand
Oh
as
yeah,
a bad guy. But
yeah, but it was
it's,
obvious that
yeah,
was not gonna happen.
yeah.
I mean, it could have, but not in this kind of story. I think this is
Yeah,
not that kind of book.
it would have been interesting, but I don't know.
Mm,
I think I would have enjoyed a flip from one of our main good characters. Like
yeah,
maybe
me too.
Matt goes to the bad side for like a book,
No.
like somebody, like some.
Mm. Oh well. There are two more things that I want to discuss. First of all, Tom, Marilyn, and Moraine.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. That was not a tasty burger. No, I did not enjoy. I did not appreciate that.
Oh, them being
That
together.
yeah, that romance. I mean, our friend Che told me that's hinted at, strongly hinted at during the first book, that there's foreshadow about that, but I just didn't. I don't know. I prefer the version in which she and Swan
Oh
are
yeah,
partners together for life.
that's definitely much
Um,
better, and it's in New Spring. Well, that happens.
hmm.
So, but
Yeah.
I didn't really like how Tom didn't really do anything at the end. He just sat outside the cave and smoked.
Well, he killed a bunch of women.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
I
because
totally forgot.
there were lots of women who were walking towards him, um, wearing this mask of many faces or something like that, or that illusionary weave, looking like Katswan or people like that, and saying, "Oh, hey, we come to talk to you about this thing," and he was like, "Shut the fuck up, plum, knife."
Finally uses
uh,
knives.
yeah, he actually mentions that he had like a thing a place in which he was putting all the bodies, that there were several, and he was piling them like a few meters around where he was, and that they were starting to become a lot of bodies. But yeah, there were like female channelers or
Hmm,
just channels going to, or to get information about what was happening with Rand inside of the cave and everything,
yeah.
because no one knew where he was.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that Tom Marilyn is one of the best characters of the saga, but he shines through the journey, not at the end of it.
Oh yeah. And what was the other thing that you were wanting to mention?
The other thing was Berin, because she didn't make it to the last book, but her story is just wonderful. She's is in my top 5 characters of the saga as well.
You said
And
Berylane?
Berin, Berin Sedai.
Oh, Varen. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, not Verulan. Come
That's why I
on.
got confused. I was like, what?
No, she probably has the best tits in the Wheel of Time or the best fashion sense, but no, not the best character. Come on.
Oh no, Varen's
Probably best
awesome.
tits. Verlaine?
Varen.
Ah, Verin. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. O sea, Verin blew my mind because you remember that I accidentally spoiled myself that she was black when I was reading book 2 or 3. And I always assumed that if she was Black Aja, she had to be evil, and that she wasn't. And what she managed to do was, it was a powerful plot twist. It was amazing. I love that.
And it was all written by Robert. That's what I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thanks to her, the White Tower survived basically. And it's terrible because, for example, our friend Tommy, he knows because he realized that she was Black Aja, and he's seeing her compulse all these women through the middle books of the series, and he's like, no, she's doing terrible things, and I'm like, no, she's doing good things.
She's
Or
getting them
maybe,
to let them follow
yeah,
command.
maybe she's doing at least like great things, because I guess that she has to fulfill some, I don't know, she has to proclaim some sort of responsibility to the dark side, to the great lord, and blah blah. But she was, her heart was always in the right place. That was, oh, that
Yeah,
was
and
intense.
that was actually spoiled to me within 5 chapters of me reading it. And I remember
Yeah,
I was so mad.
I hate the way that happened to you. It was very sad.
Yeah. Um.
But yeah, that was it.
Yeah. I don't really have much else.
No, I think
Any
that's
final thoughts?
pretty much all I have to say about the book. I am craving to go and listen to all these, um I was gonna say Sharkcast because that's like the usual thing, but no. All of these podcasts and communities and discourse, I want to go and talk to people about how they interpret the concept of the Dark One, the Creator, the Wheel of Time, the that last like uh, fight that Rand and Shaitan had, and everything that the sealing, the resealing of the Dark One means and signifies for the rest of this world, of this fictional world. But other than that, I loved the concept, and I love the saga, and I'm eager to read it again.
Cool.
Hmm.
Well, I'll
Yeah,
send you the Wheel Weaves.
the
They're
Will
my
Waves.
yeah. They and Road to Tar Valon. They're my favorite.
Hmm.
Uh, Wheel Weaves is a chapter by chapter new reader podcast with his
Oh,
husband and wife. The husband, Brett, he has read the series since the first book came out over and over and over again. And his wife is a first reader, and they go chapter by chapter
oh, that's
and
lovely.
get impressions, predictions. It's a lot of fun. They're
Hmm.
actually at Winter's Hut. They're halfway
Hmm.
done. And I've been listening to them since they finished Dragon Reborn. So I've been listening to
Wow,
them for like 3 years now. And
that's
then,
a very consistent. Yeah.
oh yeah, and Road to Tarvalon, they do a lot of post final book kind of discussions and deep
Hmm.
dives. So I'll send you those and whatever else I can
Yay!
think of. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for joining back. This was a lot of fun. This has been
Oh,
a long
yeah.
time coming too. I've been really excited to finally talk about this book.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor. I have to.